And it, of course, pertains to the Vancouver Festival tragedy. On behalf of Council and the City of Richmond, we extend our condolences and deepest sympathies to everyone affected by the tragic incident at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day Festival on Saturday, April 26. The loss of 11 cherished members of the Filipino Filipino-Canadian community and the injuries suffered by many others have touched us profoundly. Richmond mourns alongside our neighbors in Vancouver and the wider Filipino community. We recognize that many Richmond residents may have attended the celebration or have loved ones who were present when the tragedy occurred. We encourage anyone who has experienced distress to reach out for help. As a sign of respect, the city will lower all flags to half-mast during this week. That's up till April 28th. Our thoughts are with the victims, their families, and everyone impacted, including the first responders who acted with courage and compassion. So I hope that everybody can bear that in mind, and we'll hope for the best for all those who have been impacted so tragically. So with that, we'll get to our agenda. May I have a motion on the minutes?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Madam Clerk, any agenda additions or deletions?
Thank you, Your Worship. There is one agenda correction, and it is for item 19 on CNCL 9. This is an application by Wilton Properties. There's a staff memorandum indicating that the relevant bylaw and rezoning considerations have been amended, and as such, the following needs to be added to the recommendation as amended and subject to the revised rezoning considerations.
All right, may I have a motion on the agenda with that change? Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, carried. So we'll start off the business portion of the meeting with a presentation from TransLink on the 2025 investment plan. We'll call forward Kevin Quinn, the CEO, and any other parties who are wishing to discuss it with him. We have been given a copy of your slide deck, by the way.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. Hello, Mayor Brody and Council. Thank you so much for having me today. My name's Kevin Quinn. I'm the CEO at TransLink. From April 10th to April 24th, the TransLink has engaged in a public consultation on a proposed investment plan that outlines our projects, programs, and service levels, as well as the revenue sources to fund these expenditures over the next 10 years. This 2025 investment plan will be considered at the April 30th Mayor's Council meeting for approval in just a couple of days. And I understand that the City of Richmond's Public Works and Transportation Committee has made a recommendation to reconsider this plan. And so I'm here to provide Council information regarding the 2025 investment plan and to seek your support for this plan that provides for expansion and services and sets us on a path to long-term financial sustainability. Just as some quick background, you know, the pressures on our region are very real and they are growing. Metro Vancouver's population has reached 3 million, and every week, nearly 1 million of those people rely on transit. But at peak times, overcrowding means people are being left behind. At the same time, congestion is worsening, the climate crisis is accelerating, and housing affordability is under strain. A strong transportation system is critical for our region's well-being, keeping people and goods moving. But for the past several years, TransLink has been facing a structural deficit due to declining fuel tax revenue, lower fare recovery, and rising costs. And by the end of next year, we face a fiscal cliff that could lead to half of transit service cut if action is not taken. Last year, we took very real and meaningful steps to find efficiencies that would delay these cuts, which included rolling out a series of efficiency measures, including cost-cutting and revenue-generating measures worth $90 million annually. We took these steps to protect frontline transit services for as long as possible, but they will not be enough to solve our financial challenges. And so the 2025 investment plan changes that. It closes the funding gap through new revenues and cost savings, fully funding our operations through 2027. And importantly, this 2025 investment plan establishes a solid foundation to fix the remaining structural deficit in the next investment plan and return us to long-term financial sustainability. These moves, combined with potential capital investments from the governments of British Columbia and Canada, will enable more significant progress on the Access for Everyone plan. In short, this plan helps us to respond to today's pressures, and it secures a stronger, more sustainable future for Metro Vancouver. If approved, the 2025 investment plan will deliver the largest expansion in bus service since 2018. Starting in September 2025 and continuing through 2027, we will increase bus service by 5% compared to today. To meet growing demand, we're also introducing more Handy-Dart trips and added capacity on the West Coast Express. And finally, we're making investments to keep all road users moving safely and reliably, with a 70% increase in funding for pavement rehabilitation on the major road network and another year of funding for local government cost share programs that support walking, cycling, and road safety projects. So, what does this mean for improvements in Richmond? So, pending approval, we'll be starting to plan new service to Terra Nova Park to provide Richmond residents a reliable access to a fantastic park for children and access to nature where they can walk the dikes. We'll be adding service to address overcrowding on the 408 from Richmond Centre to Riverport and the 430 from Richmond Centre to Metrotown. We plan to make improvements to the 301 that connects central Richmond to North Surrey so people can access this service later in the evening. The planned extension of service on the 405 and 407 routes will better serve industrial employment areas at Mitchell Island and Ironwood, respectively, a need that we have heard directly from Richmond businesses. We're also planning increased weekday frequency on the 601 connecting Bridgeport to Tsawwassen. Beyond transit service, this investment plan will also make $3.7 million available to the City of Richmond for walking, cycling, and road safety upgrades in 2026 through our local government cost share program. And it will increase the direct payments that we make to Richmond for road maintenance and rehabilitation to $7.2 million per year. That's up from $4.2 million. And while we're working with the province on preparing for the new Highway 99 tunnel, we expect new service through that crossing to be funded in a 2027 investment plan. This plan proposes new revenues that will fully fund services through the end of 2027, and it cuts our structural deficit nearly in half by 2028, bringing us much closer to long-term financial sustainability. Funding the plan is built on the principle that those who benefit from the transportation system have a responsibility to contribute to it. And in practice, this looks like an increase to transit fares, including the YVR ad fare, an increase to property taxes and off-street parking taxes. The details of these revenue measures are included in the discussion guide provided and released at the beginning of public engagement on April 10th. Additionally, the province will provide an operating grant of $312 million to reflect an annual contribution of $100 million per year starting in 2025. And the province has also committed, this is very important because it's something we've been asking for quite some time, the province has also committed, subject to approval of the legislature, to enable an additional revenue source for TransLink in 2027 and to work with us on the parameters and options for that new source. So from April 10th to the 24th, our investment plan was available for public feedback. We prepared a fulsome discussion guide and informed the public of the opportunity to provide input. During the 2-week public engagement period, we received over 300 submissions from the public. Notably, nearly 40% of feedback was positive in support of the plan, 30% was neutral, and the remaining 30% was either mixed or negative. Many comments emphasize the need for ongoing, reliable transit investment to ensure equitable and robust services. In those 21 written submissions we received from stakeholders, several of them are from Richmond. This plan has the support of the Richmond Chamber of Commerce, the Council of Senior Citizens Organizations, and the Pacific Autism Family Network. This small cross-section of the letters received highlight the support across economic and social service organizations and how important it is to continue advancing this plan. This proposed investment plan allows us to get back to what we do best, which is delivering great transit service that we know the people of Richmond and the Metro Vancouver region want and expect. And now, more than ever, we know transit is a strategic investment in BC's future. And so we are extremely grateful for the support of our government partners, including Mayor Brody and those of you around this table who have been excellent advocates to advance these critical initiatives, ensuring transit continues to be a catalyst for growth, resilience, and long-term prosperity in the region. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take any questions if you'd like.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. We do have a couple of questions from councilors. We'll start with Councilor Day.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for coming to the City Council today. It's much appreciated. As Chair of the Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting, you know that we had a motion to not accept this report, to go to ask for a one-year plan to revise it. As I'm listening to your report, I hear a lot about buses, but would you agree that the Canada Line is one of the most successful lines for rapid transit in the Lower Mainland?
Yes.
Yeah, so why aren't we expanding the platforms, and what can we do about getting more cars yesterday?
Yeah, sure. So I think from our perspective, there's still room to grow by increasing frequency on the Canada Line. It will be an enormous capital expense to increase the size of the platforms. I think all of us can sit here and wish that those platforms today were longer than they are. The capital cost that we will need to incur to extend platforms is tremendous. And I think what I would suggest is that we can increase the frequency on those trains. They are not at the maximum frequency. Clearly, that's a function of having more cars and having more operating dollars to do that. And our 10-year plan envisions us doing that. That's not funded as part of this investment plan, although with the last investment plan in 2024, we did add more trains and more frequency. So I think, in the future, we do envision increasing frequency on those trains, but expanding platforms is not in our current vision.
So increasing the frequency of the trains until we can increase the size of the platforms, I don't see that as being part of this report.
That is not part of this investment plan.
So when do you imagine that we will increase the
So
frequency?
we have a 10-year vision called Access for Everyone that does envision increasing the frequency. That's an unfunded plan. The primary focus of this plan is really twofold. So first, we're trying to solve part of a fiscal deficit. So we have a $600 million a year deficit caused by a number of factors that I went over. And so, goal number one is let's be sure we can have the Canada Line running tomorrow, right? And so what we've done is when we've been able, through this deal and through the revenues that we've raised, to keep that service running and to keep that successful Canada Line running successfully through the end of 2027. The second piece of it is to provide increase in bus service, increase in services. And to be quite frank with you, there's a lot of unserved and underserved areas. A couple of the industrial areas that I mentioned today, we don't have unlimited resources. And so I think for our part, what we've heard from businesses is we don't have service to get workers here. So that's what we want to do. And that, frankly, has been the priority of this plan, is to serve those industrial areas that really aren't served today.
Well, thank you for that, because I have heard the same thing from businesses that are off the grid. They desperately need bus service. But please don't forget about us. Let's build success on success with the Canada Line. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just before we go to the next speaker, the memo that we got from staff refers to Canada Line expansion. TransLink had committed to adding 12 new trains to the Canada Line fleet. The first 4 were added in 2020. The remaining trains were anticipated to be in service this spring. So is that accurate?
So that is accurate. Again, that's what I referenced as what was funded as part of the 2024 investment plan.
Right. So it may not be in the 2025 investment plan, but it was in a previous one.
That's correct.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks for being here, and thanks for the update and the presentation. With the structural deficit, this 3-year plan, I take it, addresses slightly more than half of it. Mm-hmm. So in another 3 years, when the plan expires, we'll be dealing with it again with perhaps new sources of revenue, as you mentioned. Sure. But is TransLink taking steps to ensure that the structural deficit in that time period doesn't grow, or will it, I guess, can you guarantee that, or do you have a plan to ensure that it doesn't grow larger, the structural deficit?
Yeah. Maybe I can talk a bit about the steps that we've already taken. I referenced some cost savings that we're looking to tighten our own belt. Certainly, before we ask anything of taxpayers, we've taken a look internally. And so last June, we released a report of an external consultant that we had to come in and look at our own efficiencies. that resulted in about $90 million a year in efficiencies. So number one is sort of what can we do internally to bring that number down? And I feel confident that we've taken those steps. We have been asked by our board and by the Mayor's Council to find additional efficiencies, and so we're committed to doing that. So I feel like step one is TransLink needs to be as efficient as possible, right? From our perspective, we are reducing that deficit in half from $600 million to $300 million. Our expectation is that we'll work with the province on what a new revenue source could be. And between our existing revenue sources and new revenue sources, we're able to achieve that. Part of that is going to be some very tight, watching of our finances to ensure that number does not grow. We have tried through our budgeting process to account for a lot of unknowns, say tariffs, for example, right? Which, we're ordering trains. They're all made in Canada, but they do use steel and aluminum in the construction, right? We're building new facilities, every day. And so we have tried to account for those. But you certainly have my commitment that we will do everything in our power to ensure that deficit number doesn't grow.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks for giving us a tailored presentation. I think that would be valuable for every municipality who is kind of stuck under the framework that we have, where the regional government doesn't have control, as in other regions of North America, over their transit system. So I think getting an opportunity for discussion, as opposed to what would be also valuable, having like a bit of an appeal mechanism or arbitration process where municipalities can kind of have a bit of a bargaining chip around providing the taxes that we collect on your behalf for some of the work that is to be done. You mentioned a whole bunch of bus routes that are going to get improvements in this investment plan, but you didn't mention some that are since 2019 that have been cut 10 to 25% roughly. That's for the 401, 402, 403, 406, 408, 410, and then the 480 getting completely cut. Where are we at to get those back to the pre-pandemic levels where other municipalities have got up to that level and beyond already across Canada?
For our part, I think what we try to do is look at ridership and service levels that are needed to serve those routes. Where we are proposing service increases is where the data is showing us that we need to make those service increases, and what we've heard from residents and businesses. All of that said, we take a data-driven approach. We also really try to partner as best we can with municipalities to hear exactly where your needs are. And so if some of those routes where we have reduced service are having negative impacts, I want to hear about it, and we'd be happy to set up a meeting with your staff and talk more about those routes.
Yeah, thanks. And the 480, I think there's been lots of UBC students who've let you know and tried to be real active in this, but have gone nowhere. You mentioned hiring or getting new buses, ordering new buses. A lot of them are the 12-meter buses. Why not get more articulated double-decker buses, the ones that are about 23 meters that can carry up to 200 people? Higher capacity equals more savings.
Yeah, we're looking to do a procurement in the coming months to order those.
Okay. And then at the beginning, your first slides there, you talked about the climate goals that are kind of behind this plan. Mm-hmm. But if we're not able to get the share of transit and active transportation of our residents to utilize the infrastructure of TransLink, then we're not achieving those climate goals. So what goals are you set in this investment plan that we are achieving or that we are making strides towards?
Yeah. Our primary climate goals are around the emissions of TransLink's fleet. So we're looking to have a zero emission fleet by 2040. And that's what we talk mostly publicly about when we talk about our emissions reductions. I want to note that, that said, a lot of those buses to go from, say, hybrid diesel to electric buses are funded through previous investment plans. So this investment plan doesn't really fund capital. But what's important that it does do is it funds operations to keep our system running and to expand our services. The TransLink portion of emissions from this region is less than 1%, right? And the bulk of emissions come from vehicles, come from cars. And so the number one way to reduce emissions in this region is to provide more transit service. Transit service in and of itself is the great emissions reducer.
Terrific. If I may continue just a couple more points here. You mentioned the ad fare technique of maybe gaining some more money going forward, but there's just such a long list of exemptions for that program that's really going to kind of take away some of the potential there. For example, I think you can buy your Compass card from a different station, and then if you use it at the YVR stations, you're not dinged. Right, there's a lot of ways around it, and I don't know if that was all factored in. There was also the whole promise of getting the R7 for kind of a Richmond Center to Burnaby Metro Town Center. I don't know if anything's been done in that regard. I know there was discussion at this table around the Cambie Road route and alternatives and stuff, but I don't think buses have been bought. I don't think any work on the Knight Street Bridge improvements that would be needed to expedite buses getting over that. Has there been anything that we haven't seen towards the R7 connecting Richmond to Metro?
I don't believe we were able to come to agreement on an appropriate routing for the R7.
Okay, thanks. And then I guess I'll just end the last thing around the kind of governance structure of TransLink. I know this is why I think later on, if we are debating the TransLink investment plan, the governance structure, we're tight in the way it is. We don't have a lot of say as municipalities. You don't have a determination of what federal dollars or provincial dollars are going to come your way. You have a great 10-year vision, but that 10-year vision needs to be matched with the 10-year plan. When you keep throwing long-term visions out there, that's great, but unless it's backed up with the plan, which is why if we can actually negotiate a long-term plan, a lot of things that we'd get in this 3 years, you could just triple it and it'd be almost like what we would get in 10 years, perhaps. Not all in that regard, but some of these capital investments and stuff and money for our road improvements and all that stuff, you could think of it in factor. So at least then our staff can plan accordingly and things don't get recut up pavement so many times on repeat, right? If there was an actual long-term plan. I'll leave it at thank you for coming. We don't get to see you very often here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just before we go to Councillor Day for one final question, I just want to remind council that it was this council who vetoed the use of Cambie and some of the other routes that would have been necessary to have better service between Richmond Center and Metro Town. So please keep that in mind in your remarks. Councillor Day, one final question.
Yeah, I was just quickly looking over again. You mentioned earlier that you really want to hear from the public and know where we're falling short, but there's no contact information on this. Would you be able to supply council with a contact information, email or whatever, so that we can, when we hear from the public, which we hear often, how to get a hold of you?
Sure. Yes, we're happy to provide that. We're happy to provide that too.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Having said that, isn't it fair to say that the consultation period is now over?
So the consultation period is now over. That ended on the 24th. That said, we are in a constant state of always working with municipalities and always want to hear your feedback.
All right. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your great dedicated service to us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So may I have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole to hear delegations on items on the agenda? All those in favor, opposed, carried. So the one pre-registered speaker is Dee Whalen. Please come forward. And for, you know the routine, but for any others that plan to come forward, delegations come down and they sit here, you introduce yourself, and you're given 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Deirdre Whalen, and I'm here on behalf of the Richmond Poverty Reduction Coalition. It's been a long time since I've been able to actually speak to an agenda item. Most of the time we're on non-agenda items regarding low-end market rental. I just want to commend the City Council for the creation of the Housing Office and the good work that they've done. We're really pleased. We've taken these reports to our coalition, which is a group of nonprofit service providers, and they're very happy with the direction that the Housing Office is taking here. We're happy with the staff report. We know that the Lemur program, we've been working on it for 4 years. We know that it is a work in progress, and we're really happy with what's been shown here and what's recommended by staff. We just have a couple of other considerations, and we hope to be working with the Housing Office in the future on this. And I won't read it to you. We sent out this submission on April 1st, and so you have it in your kits. But the consideration has to do with looking at, we continue to want to persuade you for a waiting list and a registry for clients. And here's one way to do it. We had a meeting with city staff back around before Christmas, I think, and it was a very productive meeting. And what we had shown them was the research that shows that 75% of the lemurs are operated by for-profit developers or management companies, and only 25% are operated by nonprofit societies. We have no problem with the criteria that they use and the way that they have clients come into their lemur units, because they have specific goals for their population. But for the other 75%, which are operated by developers and for-profit corporations, here's an idea. A lot of them are looking for new housing agreements, and they're in the midst of negotiating those right now. I don't blame them, because there's been changes to the rent, the income thresholds, and to the rent thresholds as well. But when they come to negotiate a new housing agreement, perhaps have them take a look at being part of maybe a pilot project or something like that, to get them to participate in a waiting list and a registry. So it's one way to get folks used to that idea. I've heard other councillors say, and I've talked to other developers who say, I don't really want to be in this business. That's not what I do. But now that we have the Housing Office and we have a dedicated staff and we have some federal funding to do that, it may be a way that we can start to get this registry and waiting list on the go. So in conclusion, I'm happy with what staff is recommended. Like I say, it's a work in progress, and we look forward to working with them in the future. Even with the small steps that they want to make and the changes to the website, it will make it so much easier for our nonprofit service providers to assist their clients in finding housing. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. We do have a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you so much. As you stated, 75% are operated by profit organizations, not nonprofit. I also ran into some developers just literally on the street, and they said, we just want a list. Do you think if the nonprofits took it to the next level and created a waiting list or an approval process for the waiting list, that's something that we could then apply or offer to the for-profit developers and whatnot, so they wouldn't have to try to find people, it would already be there?
Yeah, I think we'd want to work with the Housing Office to establish a criteria. And we've talked about that. I know council has talked about, 3 years assessment, income assessment and assets and all of that. And we'd want to work with them on that. And once we have criteria, then it gives something for the service providers to be able to work with, to be able to talk to their folks and see who fits the criteria.
Okay, so I've got.
So I think that would be the first
So I
step.
got the horse before the cart. We need the criteria by the Housing Office so that we can create the waiting list, so that we can offer it to the owners of the nonprofits or profits.
Yeah, I like I say, I'm happy that, I think we're all happy that we have a housing office here, in the city of Richmond. I think it's, we're a big city now, and it's good that we have a focus on housing. And it's been a long time coming. And it was in social development for so long and kind of got lost in the mix. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to work with this and move forward, and for it to be a really good tool for our service providers to be able to help the right people get into the right suites when they can.
So you'll continue to speak with our staff about that and see where you go. And
Yeah, and there's a new program that they've just started up with nonprofit operators, and we're sitting there as an advocate, along with the BC Nonprofit Housing Association is also an advocate, and so we want to continue working with them.
Thank you very much. Are there any other parties who wish to speak to us? Yeah, Jerome, come forward.
I've got more than one topic.
You've got 5 minutes, whatever topics you got.
I want to speak on multiple topics, I only got 5 minutes.
Please introduce yourself and tell us.
Jerome
what you
Dickey,
want.
9280 Glen Ellen Drive, Richmond. Good evening, Mayor Brody and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this topic tonight that I'm going to speak on, which is the gift card program. I'm here to raise concerns about the gift card program, particularly in light of recent news coverage and the issues that surfaced around transparency, accountability, and public trust. First, regarding compliance, given long-standing Revenue Canada rules on the limited use of gift cards in public organizations, why is the city now, only now addressing these concerns? And only after the matter has been made public through global TV reporting. This raises serious questions about internal oversight and proactive governance. Second, regarding transparency, what confidence can residents have that other similar programs aren't quietly operating without adequate controls at City Hall? Transparency should not depend on media investigations. Third, in the context of budgeting, how does the existence of this poorly controlled program reflect on City Council that is asking residents to accept significant tax increases coming up? Fiscal responsibility and public trust are closely linked. Fourth, on employee engagement, rather than relying on extrinsic motivators like gift cards, the city should prioritize investments in intrinsic motivators such as leadership development, professional growth opportunities, and creating a culture of purpose and engagement. When was the last time an employee engagement survey was conducted, and were those results shared with council and the public? Finally, regarding next steps, when small use of gift cards is a place, as it is recognized by CRA guidelines, that place is very limited and should always be treated accordingly. How will council and staff ensure that any remaining gift cards are used appropriately and controls are strengthened going forward? So in closing, the public expects and deserves a City Hall that leads by example when it comes to transparency, compliance, and stewardship of public resources. I urge council to conduct a thorough review, communicate the findings openly, and make the necessary changes to rebuild trust. Thanks for your time and consideration on this issue.
Do you have other items?
Yep, I got 2 minutes.
I'm not sure what you've got.
Okay, I'll go on to another issue then. Development proposal at 9,000 number 3 Road, Francis number 3 Road. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the Panache Group's rezoning application, 9,000 number 3 Road. I appreciate this proposal includes larger 2- and 3-bedroom units for families, something Richmond urgently needs. The proponent has a good reputation in Richmond, so it's nice to see them involved. I have a few concerns and questions I'd like council to consider. One is parking. How are the parking spaces being allocated? Is it based on rent levels, or what criteria is used? Are there risks in creating inequities between residents? For example, I understand there's more 2- to 3-bedroom units in this plan for, specifically for families. Will they be prioritizing granted parking spaces, or are they expected to use transit? Where do they fit in sort of the priority of that? Since this site is outside a 10-minute walk from rapid transit, is it realistic to expect with the reduced parking ratios that a lot of people will be taking transit? And how will that overflow burden potentially nearby residential streets? Is there a study or plan to mitigate those impacts? So in closing, I support having more family housing and urge council to ensure parking access is fair and neighborhood parking impacts are addressed. Do I have any more time left?
You have 53 seconds.
Okay, I'll talk fast. want to express my support for the city's moving forward from time-based fee model for EV charging to energy-based model. It's common sense change. After all, gas stations charge based on the amount of fuel dispensed, not the time at the pump. So appreciate that. The approach is fair and reflects actual usage. A couple concerns, maybe, a couple considerations rather. Current public charging rates are 5 to 10 times more expensive than charging at home. While I understand the city must recover its investment in EV infrastructure, if the public charging remains this costly, it risks discouraging EV adoption, the very transition the city is trying to encourage. How can the city make public EV charging more affordable while still achieving cost recovery? Thinking about the profit margin of the vendors supplying and operating these chargers, are we seeing competitive pricing? Are more vendors entering the EV infrastructure market? How often are these contracts
All right.
reviewed?
Please finish up.
Yeah. Finally, other cities like Vancouver are moving to EV chargers on selected residential streets, making it easier for people to, without garages or private driveways, to own EVs. Will Richmond consider a similar pilot project to put chargers on residential streets? Thank you.
All right, we've got a question from Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. My question is from your first item about gift cards, and you said something that was intriguing. Asking employees to report out their engagement. I'm just curious, what would council be asking kind of staff to report out? What are some examples of that staff engagement you were referring to?
Yeah, we're referring to what is the engagement levels of staff at the city, and that's where the rewards tie in often with city staff, including potentially gift cards or other ways. But there are better ways to engage often, and that's where I don't know if the city has ever made it public. Are you even aware as councillors what the engagement levels are of our city staff? Because that's something you might want to be aware of since you are funding city operations.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for everything. Great questions. The public EV charging. So we're trying to find a way to make the best possible use of the charging that we have. It was said at the Public Works and Safety Committee or Public Works Committee meeting that it's better to go with level 2 and 3 because dual hybrid units that are electric and gas can't charge on a level 3, but they can charge on a level 2. Did you have any comments about that?
I believe that's accurate. I'm not an expert on EV charging, but I believe that's the case. Yeah, you need a mix of chargers really for people for different purposes, is my experience having the EV. And I think too, a lot of people can do home charging. And a simple 120 volt outlet, a lot of people, for the average person from Red, actually that is sufficient for a lot of people. So keep that in mind too.
But overall, you're supportive of the new system that we've come up with that is based more on the energy used as opposed to the time that you use?
Absolutely. It just makes logical sense. It's what you consume as a product, like gasoline at a gas station, right? So yeah, it's a good move, and I do appreciate the switch towards that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other parties who wish to speak to us as a council on any other items on the agenda? Anyone else? May I have a... Yes, ma'am. Did you want to speak to council?
Actually, I'm here today. I got a letter about location 8051 Anderson Road. I think it's about a new building. Is coming.
Here, have a seat, please.
Oh, sorry.
Now.
So I'm not sure. I just.
The building at Anderson and number 3 Road
Yes.
is on the agenda.
Yeah, I just have some concern about the new building because we are living next to the new building, exiting the old building.
Okay, so
So-
please introduce yourself.
Oh, I just sit down here, can talk like that?
What is your name?
Okay, yes. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm here, my name is Jun Chen. I just go through the things.
Sorry?
I go through the things. Okay, yeah, I'm here just about the coming, the new building is 8051 Anderson Road.
Right.
I'm the residence living 9111 Anderson Road, the existing building right now. So this new building is coming soon, I think. So for my own, I have some issue concern about the new building come out, because we are the bedroom is face to the west, just face to the new building. So right now, the first thing's concern about a private issue, because the new our window just face to the west side. So I'm not sure for this new building is also had some windows face to my bedroom like that. So this for my concern, the main point, because I think the new building will have lots of units.
All right, what
Yeah.
else?
Yes,
What other concerns do you have?
yeah, because for that side, we already existing, and also we have the large window, the big window on that side. So for the new building, I think it is not good. Also had like a window, like a deck, things like that, on the same size. Understand? So that concern is because its bedroom is a private room. So if the windows face to window, that means we will show under the like public eyes like that.
All right,
So that's my first concern. And the other concern, because our building, there's around 5 floors, and they have the big deck around the building. So I don't know the new building, how about the safety issue, because our deck is too big, it's low. For the new building is also the high building like that. I don't know, about the safety issue, how would they do about these things?
all right. I think the best thing to suggest for you is either Mr. Wayne Craig, who's our GM of planning, or one of his staff. If you could speak to this lady, maybe outside, and just talk to her about the issues that she has.
The third one
Yeah.
is I heard they have the barbecue area on some floor, the top. So I'm very concerned about this, because that smells always away, especially the summertime, because they have lots of units here. If they take a turn, even once a week, that smells and the barbecue smoke always bring our health issue. And lack of fire safety. I think fire safety, should the building has some regulation for this. For us, just the smelling and the smoking things to make us the health issue. That's my big concern. So, so this is main point for our concern. So thank you for giving me the chance to talk about this. I think you can understand because English is my second language. So,
Now, Mr. Craig, if you could speak to this person, this delegation, about these various issues you've outlined, or it'd be that gentleman there will, that gentleman there will speak to you about this issue. But just a minute, there is a comment or question from Councillor Day.
I hear your concerns about the barbecue area. What floor are you on in your building?
what for?
What floor?
A floor? You mean which floor?
Like second floor, seventh floor? What floor are you on?
I'm living 8th floor.
Eighth
but,
floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the whole building is like 13 floor.
Okay.
But under the 6th floor, they just commercial, maybe they a little bit higher.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah,
I think if
level.
you speak to Mr. Reese, he's going to make you feel a lot better. Thank you so
Okay.
much for coming.
Okay, thank you for.
Thank you very
listening.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak to council on an item on the agenda? All right, so ma'am, if you could speak to that gentleman in the back, you should have that discussion soon. All right, may I have a motion to rise and report? All those in favor, post carried. And then that brings us to the consent agenda. And the highlights are the receipt of the committee minutes, the 2025-2026 Richmond RCMP Detachment Annual Performance Plan, community priorities, the amendments of the Richmond zoning bylaw 8500 and other enforcement-related housekeeping amendments, low-end market rental and non-market rental housing oversight, summary of the 2024 statutory declaration process, enhancing access to affordable housing through low-end market rental program management changes, issuance of gift cards to employees, annual property tax rates bylaw, Richmond Water Quality and Conservation Report for 2024, also a report for 2024 for recycling and solid waste management, exploring new ways to reduce waste. And we have the public EV charging network, the energy-based user fees. So then we have for 2025, the provincial pesticide use permit renewal application and the liquid waste management plant biennial report. The TransLink press release has been taken off the agenda. Then we have the land use applications for first, second, and third reading, 6840 and 6860 Number 3 Road and 8051 Anderson Road. That's rezoning from downtown commercial zone to a new residential limited commercial for the Brighouse Village City Centers site-specific zone. And finally, the land use application for first reading, which goes to public hearing on May 20th. 9000 Number 3 Road rezoning from gas and service stations CG1 zone to a new site-specific commercial mixed-use ZMU 61 Number 3 Road and Francis Road zone. And may I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Moved. Moved and seconded. Any, Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there's so many things on the agenda tonight. Just wanted to speak to a couple of items, and I have a couple of questions for staff. The first one I wanted to speak to was the low-end market rental and non-market rental housing oversight summary of the 2024 statutory declaration process. And so the staff recommendation was to allow some flexibility for temporary exceedances of the income thresholds. And this is just a compassionate understanding, flexibility around, there might be certain instances where somebody's right at the top end of the income threshold to be able to stay in that unit. Maybe they received a bonus that year, or they had accrued some vacation pay and took extra in 1 year, and it put them temporarily over the limit. So this allows us to not to allow some exceedances for the situations like that, so people can stay in their units. And the next item was the enhancing access to affordable housing through low-end market rental program management changes. And so this is just highlighting, as the speaker spoke to at the beginning of the meeting, all the changes that our housing office is doing to help lower-end market rental. And I had a question of staff. The speaker spoke about, wanting the centralized waiting list and wanting a registry. And we are going to be doing a registry, though. So I just wanted to ask staff if they could just highlight what this registry will do, because I understand that it will help centralize, in a way, people that are interested in the affordable housing and know where it is, and it's a step forward anyway. So if you could just explain the difference between the registry we can do and we are going to be doing.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders. Yes, there's two pieces. So one is we're going to have a registry of forthcoming low-end market rental homes. So projects that are nearing completion of construction. We'll have a list of all those projects, the number of units with contact information. We'll then have a voluntary registry of homes that are perhaps vacant. So the operator owner of a Lemur unit can advise the city when they have a unit that's becoming available. We would keep that within a registry of units. And then in terms of a list of people who are looking for Lemur housing, we'll have a list of those looking, and then staff would be vetting the list to make sure that people that are interested are eligible.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so these are some great changes that we're making thanks to advocacy from, people from the community asking for this, and then us making the motion to have a housing office, and it's great to see that. And I think that the speaker's suggestion of asking developers to voluntarily participate in the list when they come in to renegotiate their contracts is a good idea. The issuance of gift cards to employees, Councillor Heed brought this motion forward just in reference to discovering the gift card program and that it's a very problematic. And so this is assurance that we are going to be ending that program going forward and finding other ways to acknowledge long service and retirement through appropriate gifts and not something that can be so problematic. The Richmond Water Quality and Conservation Report, this just highlighted, what Richmond's done and so much success in our reduction in water use, that we've had a 14% reduction in water reuse, even with an increase of 34% to our population, which is due to our successful metering program and leak detection systems. And I just had a question on the next item, public EV charging network, what we were just discussing of staff. So it was quite clear before what it was going to cost people with the $2.25 per hour and then the idle fees, and then the change with the consumption. It would depend on the vehicle, right? Because I think that some vehicles charge a lot slower than others just based on their mechanics. So do you have sort of an example or a chart or some sort of average that you think it might cost per hour with the new system based on the range of different vehicles that are out there?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, what we do expect on average for a level 2 charging station that would distribute about 6 to 6.5 kilowatts would be $1.80 per hour. For the level 3 charging stations, we do anticipate that to be about $17.40 based on 50 kilowatts distributed per hour.
Okay, so but it was already $2.25 an hour, so you suspect on average it might be even less to do the energy-based model?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, that is correct.
And if there's a vehicle that, I think some vehicles, they can actually reduce the amount of energy that they're consuming, like through an app, I think, is that correct? So then they could kind of tweak it if they wanted to go faster and absorb more.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, I'm not completely aware of that. I would have to look into that.
Yeah. Okay, no, but it's good. I definitely think there's a lot of support for us changing to this model. And then the last thing I'll speak to is just the two, thank you very much, and the two development applications for rental projects. So on Anderson, the 309 units of rental, and just that we had brought up some questions in planning, and they came back with an improvement to the plan with 10 additional 3-bedroom units, increasing the number of 3-bedroom units by 10 and then reducing the number of single units. And so that's really great to see. And then the one on 3 in Williams is another great example of doing all rental over commercial buildings in hubs where there's transit and services and commercial. We don't need as much parking, and this is just so great to see more of these coming forward. You just can't build them fast enough, so thanks.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. Really intense agenda, I have to say. It took me a long time to get through these, 800 pages. I wanted to just speak to a few of them. Number 7 is the Richmond RCMP Annual Performance and Community Priorities. Really happy to see that the RCMP have focused on property crime, organized crime, safety, and vulnerable persons. They pick 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 each year to really focus on, and I think those are really the things that people are most concerned about. So I'm really pleased with the work that the RCMP are doing, especially with the outreach vehicles that they have for everything from the Fox 80 car to all the vulnerable persons cars. So good job on that. I'm really pleased that Ms. Whalen came forward and talked about the low-end market rental and what we're doing with that. We need to create a list in the housing office of tenants that qualify, because it takes time to qualify someone. You have to supply 3 years' worth of financial records, income tax forms, whatnot, to show that you actually are qualifying for those rental units. And the developers I've spoken to just want a list, like just give me a name. They don't have the time or energy to know for sure that they're giving those low-end market rental units to the right people. So I'm pleased that the housing office has, I think, heard loud and clear that that's what we have to work towards. We're not quite there yet, but I'm hopeful that we're going to get there in time. Gift cards, well, we had no idea. When we approved the budgets for these various departments, we didn't have a line item that says X amount for gift cards. It was just in there. I'm glad that the investigation was done by the news outlets who brought it to our attention. Only by knowing about it can we fix it, and staff are well on their way to fixing that issue. So we'll get rid of that problem ASAP. We already have. The tax increase, item number 12, unfortunately it's 5.86%, which includes 1% to reserves, but it's important to note that Metro Vancouver is a big reason for that tax increase, and there's only so much we as a city can do. And we are spending $94 million on the new Stevenson Community Center, so it all costs money. Number 13 is the water quality, and as Councillor Galander pointed out, incredible that we have increased our population by 34% and lowered our consumption of water by 14%. Absolutely amazing. The recycling program is really popular. Anybody who's been to Linus Lane knows that we have a state-of-the-art recycling program in the city of Richmond. One of the things that hasn't been as successful is the bike program. We wanted to repurpose and reuse bikes. That hasn't quite worked out, so we may see some revisions to that next year. And recycling textiles, you just go to Value Village and drop your fabric off, or you can recycle it at Linus Lane for convenience. Either way, it's better than sending it to the dump. I was really confused by the number 15, the public EV charging network. And you've got time versus electrical usage. And once you start throwing 10 or 15 or 20 numbers against me, then I get confused and I don't know which way to go. So I was pleased that Mr. Dickey came forward and helped us understand that it is fair. And the changes will hopefully make more people buy EVs and find a place to charge them. 16 is the pesticide use permit. Nobody wants to use pesticides, and so we only do this as a last-ditch effort. But we have some areas, especially in Sturgeon Banks, that are at risk of really serious invasion of some of these plants. So only when absolutely necessary do we use pesticides. So that's why we're approving it today. The TransLink press release, thank you very much for Mr. Quinn to come forward and present the investment plan. I'm looking very forward.
That's not on the consent agenda.
Oh, right, sorry about that, I apologize, I'll come back to that. Next one is number 3 road, Anderson Road, and this is great because we need more rentals in Richmond, and I'm pleased that staff are going to work with the Ms. Chin that came forward with her concerns, and I'm sure between screening and other things, we can make sure that your privacy is not affected by this development. But the star of the night has to be number 20. That's the Panache Group that's going to be building a rental-only building at the corner of number 3 Road and Francis. And this is very, very similar to the one that was already built at the corner of Williams and number 3 Road, which has commercial at the bottom and all rental up above. And my only question of staff is, this is exactly what we want to see in those kind of locations. How fast were we able to approve this development? And could we use this one and the last one as templates for future developments so we can make it even faster in the future?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, this application was received in late 2023. Staff did work diligently with the applicant and their team in order to process the application in a timely manner. As with any application, there is often some feedback and back and forth between staff and the applicant. Both parties worked to advance the application as quickly as we could, and certainly we learn from each and every application that we receive and try to apply it going forward to other projects as well.
Well, thank you. I've heard that your department has done a phenomenal job of working through the process, and keep up the good work. You want to see more of those coming in the future.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just two items I'll speak to, as much has been covered. Item number 14, the Recycling and Solid Waste Management Report 2024. I really like the title, Exploring New Ways to Reduce Waste. And I think that could be maybe highlighted for two segments of the population this go around. One could be the apartment and condo residents, as they have a kind of a lower rate typically of recycling. For example, the green bin, having to take your green waste down the elevator or stairs to the common location can be a little bit more of a challenge, but it's still worth doing. And so making sure you have a good advocate on your strata council, or hopefully someone who's educated with some of the great ideas that are found in this report to encourage more participation and more waste diversion. And then the second segment of the population would be the business population, where we offer this really unique kind of tailored to your business. Our staff will visit you, they'll look around, they'll make the recommendations that will suit your needs and hopefully save you money and save a lot of waste from just getting thrown out once you learn about opportunities. So check out the Business Recycling Resource Program. And then last one on that is about special events. If you're organizing any events in the near future, there's good stuff in there as well on how to work with a consultation group, Ocean Ambassadors and others, and the Green Ambassador Program, the youth volunteers to help make your events a success. I'll end with speaking on item number 20. That was just discussed, the development on 3 Road and Francis there. Former gas station, we have had a lot of gas stations sit idle. And so this is kind of one of the first maybe in a while to get kind of dug up and put to new use. So I'll just highlight a couple of the concerns I had with it, but I'm not taking it off the consent agenda tonight. But it's one that it's the dollars that are coming in lieu of indoor amenity space. This is a fair distance from any other city facility and amenity space. So the city is getting $309,000 in lieu of putting it in the building for the residents to have some space on site. And so that will be a bit of a burden on when those users go to other facilities and compete for parking, compete for membership and all that other stuff, where it's always nice to provide these decentralized throughout the city as well. Then the other part I'll highlight is there's 11 trees on site. And normally when I'm referring to trees, they're in quite good soil. I can't say the same about this. I know there's nothing in the report that talks about spills and other things that maybe have leached into the soil underneath these trees when this was once a gas station operation. And I understand that disturbing them, that soil probably is going to be take it all out and move it all out of there, especially if you're determining other things are found in there. So regardless of that, 11 trees are going. That's all of them that are on the site. They were supposed to put in 22, but they're only making room for 10, and so they're giving cash in lieu for the other 12. That's unfortunate because in the public letters that are included in our package, there was a number of residents who wrote their concerns about the loss of trees. And unfortunately, it's going to remain that way because they're actually only going to be putting trees back in on the south side and not the east side, which is also facing the neighbors. And the reason for that, I learned at planning committee, is that there's a sanitary line there, and apparently you can't plant over top of the sanitary line, even though there's trees over top of sanitary lines all over the place. And so I guess that won't be replaced. So the 10 trees they're putting in will be a fragment of what's there now, especially with the compact ground and the lack of ability for roots to do what roots need to do. So with that said, I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Not much left to be talked about, but I think a few things need to be highlighted. And that is the RCMP annual performance, Your Worship, given the nature of what is happening around us, to understand how Richmond is in good hands and how the OIC provides and identifies opportunities for service delivery in Richmond, working with council and committee and the community. The items that they are focusing on in the areas of crime and road safety is extremely important. And as you well know, our officers have been writing more tickets and distracted driving than any other community in British Columbia, according to what I see. And I'm just so happy they are doing that. And I think the public needs to know that they're taking this very, very hard-nosed look at it, and we need to get that off the road. The community is also very engaged with the RCMP putting out a Crime Watch and a Business Watch bulletin once a month. And if people haven't seen it, you can find it in any one of your community centers and any other public building. There's lots of opportunity to find out hints of how to reduce crime, and also statistics of what's happening in the community. People will make a comment now and again, I don't feel safe in my community, but I think you need to see what's happening and why you would say that. And I know one thing with this OIC has worked on the homelessness in terms of a safety concern, and are doing full gears ahead on that one. I'd like to mention, Your Worship, in terms of our recycling, even though I wasn't on Public Works, just a question I have on page 173, the multifamily grease collection pilot. I don't know who can answer it, but given the issues that we've had with grease and the millions of dollars we've had to put into grease, why are we calling this a pilot? Why aren't we just doing it and implementing it? To me, everything we're doing is good, but I see we're looking to increases in kilogram collections. A lot of that goes down the drain as well, to add to the other grease, does it not?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor McNulty. Grease most definitely does go down the drain, but there is other options for dropping off as at the Richmond Recycling Depot for residents as well. It is still a pilot at this time because it isn't diverting the amount of material that we would expect to see coming out of multifamily complexes. So we are continually looking at ways to decrease grease going into our sewer system, but this may not be the silver bullet, which we were hoping.
Okay. Well, I hope we can publicize that a little, as much as possible because on every morning down there, there's a lot of people down there. But it'd be good to let people know that they can get it down there at any time. And the other thing is we need to continue expanding our. Could you just make a comment with regard to through Your Worship, the recycling of clothing and what we're doing with that?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor McNulty. So in beginning of March of this year, we did install 2 textile donation bins at the Richmond Recycling Depot. The first month of collection, we diverted just over 3,400 pounds of textiles. So it's been very successful so far.
Good. Well, thank you very much for that, and thank you for the work you're doing. Just a quick comment, Your Worship, on the water. We talk about the number of samples taken, well over 2,000 every year. We have the finest water in the world, and when you get your water bill, just appreciate the clearness of the water. But more importantly, May 1st, Your Worship, is water restriction, starting on water restriction. We had a little rain today. I'm going to continue to preserve and add to our number one resource if we can. But it's been proven, and unfortunately, not all of Metro Vancouver has water meters, and many are not willing to put them in, and we do. And as a result of what we are doing, our people are using less water, and our population is growing exponentially. And it's because of the water meter program, and I just hope that others will happen. We also, just for the public, have 39 outdoor water fountains for the public. And I assume as we get into the summer, we will continue to have our spraying on the various sites throughout Richmond to cool down. And I'm looking forward to that. And with that, Your Worship, I'll be supporting everything on the agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda, and I just want to make a comment on one. and it echoes what Councillor McNulty just said, and that's about the RCMP's annual performance priorities. It's a very solid plan. We all recognize in this day and age the importance of public safety, and I think it's one of the most important things that any level of government does, including municipal government. So their emphasis is primarily on people, and that includes a wide swath of different things. It also includes things like intelligence-led policing and analysis, the targeting of prolific offenders, the ones that are committing a lot of crime in our society, including in Richmond, and also a real emphasis on road safety. There's also an emphasis on retail thefts and the plague of violence and thefts that are encompassing some of our retail outlets, and I also think that's a really important one. The police are facing varied demands nowadays, everything from organized crime to mental health, and the demands on them are great. So I just think it's important, as others have, to just simply acknowledge the members out there that are working, the people in uniform on the road, the civilians working in the building, the volunteers, and the community partners that work with the police, because it all goes together to make our communities safer. And with that, I'll be supporting the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I too will be supporting everything on tonight's consent agenda. I just wanted to make a few comments on our liquid waste management plan biennial report. Every 2 years, our staff has to update our report on what we're doing in terms of liquid waste, so the sewers. We continue to do grease management, so a number of years ago, we started doing extremely proactive patrols out to restaurants to make sure that they're not throwing grease down into the sewers. We had a problem a few years ago where it was a $7 million fix to sort out a damage that was done to the system. As was mentioned, one of the great things is because we have water metering, there's less water used, which means less water goes down the drain into the system. And so it protects our system in its need to expand because there's not as much fluids going into the system in the first place. Something that was done cleverly by previous councils was separating our storm and sanitary sewers. So as everyone knows, we used to be called ditchman because we had ditches and that's where the rainwater used to go. When we closed up the ditches, instead of just putting all that water into the sanitary sewer, they created storm sewers and ran them separately, and those go into where our pump stations and then pump them out into the ocean because it's not dirty water going out. And because of that, we almost never have overflows here in the Richmond plant in Lulu Island. So we are careful with our stormwater runoff. We also have rules around construction runoff and how they deal with their runoff to make sure that it's going in the correct place. And as Councillor Wolf said, planting trees over sanitary sewers, that's where the inflow and infiltration comes. So what happens is the tree roots grow into your household sewer lines, and then the water and the grit gets into the system and clogs everything up. And my final reminder is that flushable wipes cause nearly $300 million a year of damage to our sewer systems in Canada. So don't put them down the drain. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Those opposed? So it's carried. The only one item was taken off the consent agenda, TransLink press release. So I'll go to the Chair of Public Works and Transportation Committee, Councillor Day, to introduce this.
Yeah, thank you very much. At Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting, we were concerned about the 3-year plan. We did not have this investment plan at that time. So a motion was made and passed that a letter be written to TransLink requesting that the 2025 investment plan be reconsidered for a 1-year funding agreement with the province, at which time a longer-term agreement can be developed. And number 2, that staff provide a memo with transit service options, which our manager of transportation, Mr. B, did provide us with the memo, and everyone should have it in front of them.
So is that moved? Okay, Councillor Wolf, you want to move that? And I'll ask, you've moved that? Is there a seconder? All right. Councillor Wolf, tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. I'd be very happy to sign this letter if it gets written. So I just want to highlight two things, very simple. Our staff just gave us the second part to this item, the memorandum with transit service options. And in there's two lines I'll read for you. One is the TransLink Board of Directors. They have four things, bullet points that they're supposed to do. One of them is to submit 10-year transportation investment plans to the Mayor's Council for approval. And then go to the section, what does the Mayor's Council do? Well, one of their four bullet points approves 10-year transportation investment plans. It also says in here that every 3 years, TransLink must prepare a 10-year investment plan. So if we can get a 1-year plan, then in that time, we can get to that 10-year plan. That is their responsibility. If we go with this 3-year plan, then it's basically following the provincial government's politics behind this, because there'll probably be a snap election in 3 years, and they'll use this as a campaign crutch. So I think what we can do here is write a letter, ask for what is demanded from this organization. Unfortunately, this is the governance structure we're stuck with. But if we just sit on our hands and do nothing, then we'll continue to get a much lesser quality transit system than our residents deserve, and is less than equitable if you look at other major transit centers in Canada.
All right, with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's defeated with Councillors Glanders, the Mayor, Councillor McNulty, Liu, Hobbs, and Heed opposed. That brings us to the public announcements and events. First of all, coming out of the closed meeting, we have the youth representative appointment. Nat Ho was appointed to the Richmond Accessibility Advisory Committee as the youth representative for a 2-year term to expire December 31st, 2026. Then we have National Volunteer Week. This is National Volunteer Week, and it's an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the positive impact volunteers make throughout the community. To learn more and explore volunteer opportunities, go to our website /volunteers. Then we have Public Works Open House. Join us on Saturday, May 10th for the popular Public Works Open House at Linus Lane Workyard. This free family-friendly event is an opportunity for city staff to showcase the work they carry out daily to ensure the safety and health of the community. Enjoy educational displays, interactive activities, heavy equipment and trucks, live entertainment in the Richmond Fire Rescue vehicles. This Public Works Open House this Saturday, it runs from 11 in the morning, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So visit the city's website /PW Open House for details. Then we have May is Asian Heritage Month. It's a time to honor the rich cultural heritage and significant contributions of Canadians of Asian descent. The City of Richmond invites everyone to take part in a variety of educational and engaging activities planned throughout the month. To learn more, visit the website /Asian Heritage Month. Then we have the 2025 capital projects. Richmond invites residents to explore the newly launched 2025 capital projects highlights. This interactive digital showcase offers an inside look at the city's major infrastructure investments, from community center replacements and energy innovation to intersection upgrades and multi-use pathways. So visit in person at City Hall until May 12th or explore online at letstalkrichmond.ca until June 8th. Then we have Youth Week. That takes place May 1st to the 7th with 15 free or low-cost activities offered throughout Richmond. This is a great opportunity for youth to connect, be active, and celebrate their contributions to our community. So if you want the full list of events, go to the website /YouthWeek. And the last thing I want to say at the outset, I commented on the great tragedy of the Vancouver Festival that happened over the weekend. And of course, today, we half-masted the flags. But in fact, in our flag policy, one of the few days of the year that we have a policy for half-masting is on the National Day of Mourning. And I was with Councilors McNulty and Hobbs when we were down at the Fisherman's Needle in Carey Point Park today to honor that occasion where we honor particularly the fishers who have been lost at sea or been injured drastically on the job, and also to take note of the various people throughout our economy who again, have lost their lives, or they have either through accident or occupational health issues, or have suffered disabling situations. So I just wanted to recognize Kelvin Hegel and the entire group who put that event on. It's very meaningful. So the flags were half-masted for that reason today, but they will continue throughout the week to be half-masted in honor of all those who are affected by that tragedy at the Vancouver Festival. So with that, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There is one bylaw for final adoption with no noted opposition.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And Development Permit Panel.
There is one recommendation that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on April 16th, 2025 be received for information.
Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, carried. That leads us to public delegations on non-agenda items. May I have a motion to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to hear delegations on non-agenda items? Second. All those in favor, opposed, carried. So there is one such delegation, Bex Jennings, owner and head trainer for Pooch Positives, to speak on some items involving dogs. Please, ma'am, have a seat.
Thank you.
At the microphone.
Okay, I've never done this before, so I'm a little bit nervous.
I'll just remind you of the process. You've got 5 minutes. Start by introducing yourself and then tell us what's on your mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, for allowing me to present today. My name is Rebecca Jennings, owner of Pooch Positive. I'm a dog trainer and canine consultant behaviourist based in Richmond, and I have BC SPCA Animal Kind Accreditation. I am requesting that Richmond City ban the use and sale of prong and pinch, electric and breath-restricting collars. The BCSPCA, American Veterinary Society of Animal Behaviour, Pacific Assistance Dog Society, Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, to name but a few, all have mission statements declaring that these collars are aversive. 10 European countries, New Zealand, in Australia, New South Wales, South Australia, Australian Capital Territory, as well as Montreal here in Canada, with some other countries soon to follow, have banned some of these collars. The BCSPCA opposes the use of animal training methods or devices which employ coercion and force, such as prong, choke, and electric shock collars. It is my hope that by banning the use and sale, the public start to ask why and allows them to seek out less harmful ways of helping their dogs. Slide 2, please. Thank you. My research into these collars has not been purely scientific, although evidence is important. I went to several pet stores within Richmond and was stunned that none of these collars come with any warning that they can harm or even kill a pet on the packaging. With regards to the evidence, there are many research studies on if these collars are harmful both physically and mentally, and the outcome is always yes. Dogs are sentient beings with the power of thought and reasoning and cognition of their world. Do we really want our beloved family pets to see that their lives are pain? Slide 3, please. Prong collars are made of metal and have prongs pointing towards a dog's neck and throat. They're restricting size, forcing the prongs into the dog's skin. A pinch collar is made of hard plastic triangles. It also reduces in size and pinches the dog's skin. Both dog and human can cause the pain inflicted by these collars when the dog either pulls or the human yanks on the leash. Neither are teaching the dog to walk politely on the leash. They are teaching the dogs to be aware of their environment, which can lead to reactivity and, in some extreme cases, aggression. Or the dog learns that going for a walk causes pain and will refuse to leave the house. On average, dogs have a quicker gait than humans, and it is natural for them to walk quicker. We need to teach the dog using force-free methods and not cause pain and injury to them. Injuries caused by prong and pinch collars, as well as the mental health concerns, the physical injuries include skin irritations, punctures into the skin, and in some very severe cases, spinal injuries, as well as esophagus, lymph nodes, thyroid glands, trachea, mandibular, and arterial problems. Slide 4, please. Breath restricting or choke chains is a metal chain that links through itself to create a loop. There is no way to manage how small the restriction is. Again, this collar was invented to prevent leash pulling, but it is also now a control device. Dogs do not have the power to speak human, so cannot indicate they cannot breathe. Instead, they are just being strangled. These collars cause mental trauma as well as physical, including irreparable damage to the trachea, thyroid glands, neck muscles, the vertebrae, larynx, lymph nodes, and the esophagus. These collars could strangle a dog. Slide 5, please. Electric collars have 2 metal prongs that touch a dog's skin. They are used to stop barking, control the dog, leash management, to name but a few. They either work by recognizing vibrations in the dog's throat or by a remote control administered by a human. An electric collar does not get down to the root cause of why a dog is exhibiting certain kinds of behavior, which is needed to help that dog and to rehabilitate them. Again, these collars cause severe mental problems as well as the physical, which are skin irritations, deep burns, and for a dog who has a heart problem or the collar is overused, these collars have the potential to cause death. Slide 6, please. Happily, there are alternatives, some of which are cheaper than these collars. Harnesses help a dog to stop pulling and can spread the weight of the dog across its upper body, making it easier for the human to handle. It is my hope that by banning the collars for use and sale, the public see cruelty-free and humane products that have been well researched. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for listening to my presentation. May I answer any questions?
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. We do have at least one question. My suggestion to council is that we would refer this to staff and have them take a look. Okay, so that's moved it. Just a minute.
Sorry, Mayor.
I have a question. Councillor Glanders.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I just
Thank
have a
you.
quick question. In your research, were all of these types of collars that you mentioned equivalently harmful? And I just ask because I know that I've had friends that train dogs, and in the past I've seen that the choke collars that were used to be really popular, that they kind of went to the prong collar because such a small amount of force is required and they won't choke the dog. And I did witness like very, very well-behaved dogs because it was a really difficult type of breed, like really stubborn, really large, like dangerous if you don't have a good handle on them. And they did I thought they did a really good job with the prong collar. So I just was wondering what your opinion was on some uses being okay for a prong collar.
I don't think prong collars are used on any dog.
There's better alternatives now, like
the
just
harness,
using the waist.
I think, if I may say that you're talking about a large breed dog with regards to them wearing a prong collar. A harness is much better for them. It spreads the weight of that pull. It's not here, and there aren't metal sticks sticking into a dog's skin. They can cause reactivity and, at very worst, aggression. And we have to be really careful with defining those two. So with regards to your friend, go to any local pet store, get that dog measured up for a harness, and your best bet is a 2-clip harness, one that has a clip here, which is a dog's center of gravity, and then on their back, and literally use 2 leashes whilst that dog is going through education of how to walk slower, because that's what we're asking dogs to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. We'll excuse you now, thank you.
What does sending to staff mean?
That means staff will examine it and we'll have a report back in due course.
Thank you very much for your time today, I appreciate it.
Okay, so a motion to refer?
So moved.
No. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Move Verizon report.
All those in favor, opposed, carried.
Move adjournment.
And we are now adjourned. Thank you.